Welcome to the Retirement Wealth Podcast. I'm so glad you're joining us today. We have a really interesting topic lined up that's sure to resonate with many of you.
Absolutely, Emily. Today, we're diving into how delaying Social Security can impact your benefits. And honestly, it's a decision that can really shape your retirement experience.
Right? So many people don't realize just how significant that choice can be. It can mean the difference between a comfortable retirement and one that feels a bit tighter than you'd like.
Exactly. We'll explore the ins and outs of Social Security, how those benefits work, and what it means to delay claiming them.
And we're not just talking numbers here. We'll also look at the emotional and lifestyle factors that come into play. Because, retirement isn't just about finances.
It's about quality of life, too. We'll also touch on some strategies for maximizing your benefits, and when might be the best time for you to file.
Plus, we'll share some tips on how to navigate the complexities of Social Security. It can be a bit overwhelming, but we're here to help simplify it for you.
So let's get started.
Yeah, let's jump right in. First up, let's talk about the basics of Social Security and how the age at which you claim can really make a difference.
Emily, it's really crucial to discuss why delaying Social Security is such a big deal right now. With so many people approaching retirement, the decisions they make today can have lasting impacts on their financial future.
Absolutely, David. And with inflation being such a hot topic lately, it's something that can't be ignored. When you think about the cost of living rising, delaying Social Security could actually serve as a hedge against that inflation.
Right, exactly. Let's say someone is planning to retire at 62. They might think, well, I should start taking Social Security right away. But what they might not realize is that by waiting until 70, their monthly benefit could increase significantly, sometimes by as much as 76%.
Wow, that's a huge difference. And when you consider how long people are living these days, you could be looking at a lot of extra money over the years.
Definitely. I had a client, let's call her Mary. She was hesitant about delaying her benefits. She thought she'd need the income right away, but after running the numbers and showing her how much more she'd get by waiting, she realized she could afford to delay. Now she's looking at a much more comfortable retirement.
That's a great example. It really highlights the importance of understanding your own situation. It's not just about the money. It's about planning for a future that could last 20 years or more.
Exactly. And when we consider market volatility, the need for a strong, reliable income becomes even more apparent. With so many uncertainties in the stock market, having a solid Social Security benefit can provide a safety net.
Right, and it's not just about retirement income. There's also the tax efficiency aspect. If you wait to claim Social Security, you might lower your taxable income in those early retirement years, which can be a big deal when you're trying to manage withdrawals from retirement accounts.
Yes, that's so true. And let's not forget healthcare costs. They can be a huge concern in retirement. By delaying Social Security, retirees may have more financial flexibility to cover those unexpected medical expenses.
Exactly. Those costs can add up quickly. And if you've got more income later on from Social Security, it can help you manage those costs without dipping too heavily into your savings.
And speaking of savings, I think it's important to touch on legacy planning. Many folks want to leave something behind for their loved ones. By maximizing Social Security benefits through delay, they can ensure that their assets last longer.
That's a point that often gets overlooked. People focus on their immediate needs, but planning for the future is just as important.
Right, and let's not forget the emotional side of financial security. Knowing you have a strong, reliable income source can provide peace of mind, which is invaluable in retirement.
Yes. I've talked to so many retirees who say that feeling secure financially allows them to enjoy their retirement more, travel, spend time with family.
Exactly. I had a couple, let's call them Tom and Lisa. They were really stressed about their retirement finances. They were worried they wouldn't be able to travel as they'd hoped. After we worked through a plan that included delaying Social Security, they realized they could actually afford those trips they dreamed about.
That must have been such a relief for them. It's amazing what a little planning can do for your peace of mind.
It really is. And with the current economic trends we're seeing, it's just more important than ever to think strategically about Social Security.
For sure. With the potential for changes in Social Security benefits, and even discussions around the long-term viability of the program, Making informed choices now can have a significant impact later.
And let's face it, with the rising costs of living and market uncertainties, every dollar counts. We all want to maximize what we can get.
Definitely. I think it's also important to remind listeners that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Each situation is unique.
Very true, and that's why having personalized strategies is key. It's about understanding your own financial landscape and making the best decision for you and your family.
So what are some core strategies that people can use to make the most of their Social Security benefits while considering all these factors?
Well, let's dive into those strategies next. So, let's dive into the strategies and rules of thumb regarding delaying Social Security. It's a decision that can really impact your overall retirement income, right?
Absolutely, David. I mean, it's like a pivotal point in planning. So what are some of the key things listeners should consider if they're thinking about delaying their benefits?
Well, first off, delaying Social Security can increase your monthly benefit significantly. You know, for every year you wait past your full retirement age, your benefits can increase by about 8% per year. That's a pretty substantial return on your investment.
Wow, that's impressive. So if someone decides to wait until age 70, they could end up with, nearly 32% more than if they started at their full retirement age?
Exactly. And, let's say your full retirement age is 66, and your benefit at that age is $2,000 a month. If you wait until 70, you'd be looking at around $640 a month. That's a big difference over time, especially if you're expecting to live into your 80s or beyond.
Right. And that's where the math really starts to matter. But what about the trade-offs? I mean, not everyone can afford to delay their Social Security, right?
Good point. It really comes down to individual circumstances. If you have other income sources like a pension or significant savings, you might have the flexibility to wait. But if you're relying on Social Security as your primary income, it might make sense to start earlier, even if it means receiving a lower benefit.
That makes sense. So what should folks consider in terms of their overall retirement strategy when deciding?
Well, it's crucial to look at your entire financial picture. Think about your assets, stocks, bonds, tax-advantaged accounts like 401ks and IRAs. For instance, if you have a well-structured withdrawal strategy, you could potentially withdraw from those accounts to bridge the gap until you start Social Security.
Right, like using the 4% rule, where you withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year. But, do you think that rule still holds up today?
It's a solid starting point, but it's also important to adjust for your personal situation. Factors like market conditions, your specific retirement goals, and life expectancy can all influence how much you can safely withdraw. If you're invested in a 70-30 portfolio, 70% stocks and 30% bonds, that can provide a good balance between growth and stability.
So in a way, the strategy can be quite personalized, depending on your risk tolerance and how long you expect to be in retirement.
Exactly. And let's not forget about tax implications. Roth IRAs can be particularly advantageous. If you've got funds there, you can withdraw tax-free in retirement, which can help you manage your taxable income when starting Social Security.
That's a great point. So if someone has a mix of taxable and tax-advantaged accounts, they can be strategic about how they withdraw from each to optimize their tax situation.
You bet. And if you're delaying Social Security, you might want to pull more from your taxable accounts early on, allowing your tax-advantaged accounts to grow. Then, once you start receiving Social Security, you can adjust your withdrawals to minimize taxes.
It's like a financial puzzle, huh? Putting together all these pieces to make the best decisions.
Exactly, Emily. And, another consideration is real estate. If you own a home or other properties, you might have more flexibility in your retirement income strategy. You could sell a property or even consider a reverse mortgage to access cash without affecting your Social Security benefits.
That's interesting, but what about annuities? Do they play a role in this strategy?
They can. Annuities can provide a guaranteed income stream, which can complement your Social Security benefits. If you're worried about outliving your savings, having a portion of your retirement portfolio in annuities might give you peace of mind.
So it's all about creating that balance, right? Between guaranteed income and growth potential.
Yes. And when it comes to asset allocation, diversification is key. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. A diversified portfolio can help you weather market fluctuations and keep your retirement on track.
Speaking of that, let's talk about withdrawal strategies a bit more. The bucket strategy is gaining popularity, right?
Absolutely. The bucket strategy involves dividing your assets into different buckets based on when you'll need the money. For example, you might have a short-term bucket for the first few years of retirement, invested in cash or bonds, and a long-term bucket invested in stocks for growth.
That way, you're not forced to sell stocks during a market downturn just to meet your immediate needs.
Exactly. And it allows you to ride out the market's ups and downs. Plus, you can adjust your buckets over time as your situation changes. It's all about flexibility.
And that flexibility is crucial, especially as life can throw unexpected challenges our way, right?
Right. And one thing to keep in mind is required minimum distributions, or RMDs, if you have traditional retirement accounts. Once you hit age 73, you're required to start taking distributions, which can impact your tax situation and how you manage your withdrawals.
So if someone has a lot in traditional accounts, they need to plan accordingly to avoid a tax hit?
Exactly. And it's a reminder to regularly review your financial plan and make adjustments as necessary.
David, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. But before we wrap up this section, what are some common pitfalls people should avoid when it comes to delaying Social Security and overall retirement planning?
That's a great segue. There are definitely a few traps that people can fall into. For instance, not considering their overall financial situation and relying solely on Social Security can lead to gaps in income.
That's a big one. And I suppose not having a solid withdrawal strategy could also be a pitfall?
Yes, definitely. Many people underestimate how much they'll need to withdraw in retirement. It's important to have a plan that takes into account your lifestyle, healthcare costs, and unexpected expenses.
Great points, David. I think our listeners now have a much clearer picture of how to navigate these decisions.
You know, Emily, one of the biggest pitfalls I see is when people claim Social Security too early. It's such a tempting option, especially when retirement feels like it's finally here.
Right, it's like, I've worked all my life, I want to start enjoying this money now. But what they don't always realize is that claiming early can really affect their long-term benefits.
Exactly. I had a client, let's call him Bob, who claimed at 62 because he thought he needed the income. He figured, I'll just take what I can get. But by doing that, he locked himself into a lower benefit for life.
Ouch. That's a tough lesson. So, how much did that decision actually cost him in the long run?
Well, Bob was looking at a reduction of about 25% compared to what he would have received if he waited until full retirement age. Over time, that adds up to tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow, that's significant. So what would you suggest to someone who's unsure about when to claim?
I always tell people to weigh their options carefully. Consider your health, your financial situation, and even your family history of longevity. If you have a family history of living into their 90s, you might want to delay claiming.
That makes sense. It's like the longer you wait, the more benefits you could potentially receive each month. But I imagine there's a balance there too.
Absolutely, and it's not just about the math. You also have to think about your lifestyle. If waiting means you're living more comfortably now, that can be a factor too.
And it's not just Social Security, right? There are other common mistakes people make in retirement planning.
Definitely. One often overlooked area is the sequence of returns risk. Many retirees don't consider how the order in which they withdraw their investments can impact their long-term savings.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. So let's say you retire in a year when the market takes a dip. If you start withdrawing from your investments during a downturn, you could deplete your savings much faster than if you had waited for a market recovery.
That sounds risky. So if someone's not careful, they could end up running out of money just because of bad timing?
Exactly. I had a couple, let's call them Susan and Mark, who retired just before the 2008 financial crisis. They were withdrawing from their accounts as the market crashed, and it significantly hurt their portfolio.
That's a harsh reality check. What could they have done differently?
Well, they could have built a strategy that included a cash reserve to weather those downturns. That way, they wouldn't need to sell investments at a loss.
So important to have a plan for those tough market years. What about taxes? I imagine many retirees don't factor those into their withdrawal strategy.
You're spot on. A lot of people ignore the tax implications of their withdrawals. For example, taking too much from a tax-deferred account, like a traditional IRA, can push you into a higher tax bracket.
Right. And that can eat away at your retirement income pretty quickly.
Exactly. I had a client, let's call her Linda, who didn't consider the tax impact and ended up withdrawing a large sum from her IRA in 1 year. She was shocked to see her tax bill the following April.
That sounds frustrating. What would you recommend to avoid that situation?
A good strategy is to create a tax-efficient withdrawal plan. This means looking at your income sources and timing your withdrawals to minimize taxes. Maybe drawing from taxable accounts first, then tax-deferred accounts, and finally tax-free accounts like Roth IRAs.
That sounds like it could really make a difference. What about healthcare costs?
Ah, yes. A common underestimation. Many people don't realize how much healthcare can cost in retirement. It's one of those things that can sneak up on you.
Do you have any examples of that?
Sure, I once worked with a couple, Mike and Karen, who thought they had enough saved for healthcare, but they didn't account for the rising costs of long-term care. When Mike needed assistance later in life, they quickly found their savings dwindling.
That must have been so stressful for them. So how can folks avoid that pitfall?
Planning ahead is key. Look into Medicare options, long-term care insurance, and factor in those potential costs in your overall retirement strategy. It's better to prepare now than to scramble later.
And I imagine asset allocation plays a big role in all of this too, right?
Absolutely. Poor asset allocation can lead to inadequate growth or excessive risk. I've seen retirees stick too heavily in cash, thinking it's safe, but then they miss out on growth opportunities.
That's a delicate balance.
It really is. You want a diversified portfolio that matches your risk tolerance and time horizon. I had a client, let's call her Jane, who was so afraid of losing money that she kept everything in cash. And over several years, inflation eroded her purchasing power.
That's a tough lesson. How can someone evaluate if their asset allocation is on point?
Regularly reviewing your portfolio with a financial advisor can help. Make sure your investments align with your goals and risk tolerance.
It sounds like there are several red flags to watch out for.
Definitely. If you notice you're feeling anxious about your investments, or if your asset mix isn't aligned with your goals, those are signs to seek help.
And it's never too late to adjust, right?
Exactly. Even if you've made mistakes in the past, you can always pivot and make informed decisions moving forward. Taking steps now can lead to a more secure retirement.
Such valuable insights, David. So what's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, it's crucial to have a solid plan in place that considers Social Security, taxes, healthcare, and asset allocation. Start by identifying any red flags in your current strategy and seek guidance if needed.
That's great advice. Taking proactive steps can really help avoid those common pitfalls.
Absolutely. Retirement should be a time of enjoyment, not stress over finances.
Thanks, David. I think this discussion will help many listeners feel more empowered in their retirement planning.
I hope so, Emily. It's all about making informed choices for a brighter future.
And with that, let's transition to what our listeners can do next to ensure they're on the right track.
All right. So let's dive into some actionable steps that folks can take right now to optimize their Social Security benefits and overall retirement plan.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So where should someone start?
Well, first off, I'd recommend visiting the Social Security Administration's website, ssa.gov. They have a ton of resources available, including your earnings history and estimated benefits based on different claiming ages. It's a great starting point.
That makes sense. Knowing what you're working with is key. What about calculators? Are there any specific ones you'd recommend?
Absolutely. Both Vanguard and Fidelity have excellent retirement calculators. They can help you model different scenarios, like the impact of delaying Social Security or adjusting your savings rate. Schwab also has a handy retirement planner tool. It's really about seeing the numbers play out.
Right, getting that visual can help clarify things, and I imagine it's super helpful to see what delaying Social Security could mean for your total benefits.
Exactly. And while you're at it, consider running your retirement projections at least once a year, if not quarterly. It's a good habit to get into. Life changes, and so should your plan.
That sounds manageable. What about tools for tracking investments or portfolios?
There are some fantastic financial planning apps out there. Mint is a popular one for budgeting, but for retirement-specific planning, Tools like Personal Capital can help you keep an eye on your investments and track your net worth. They provide a nice overview of your financial health.
So it sounds like having these tools can really empower people to take control of their finances.
Definitely. And let's not forget about tax software, especially as you get closer to retirement. Programs like TurboTax or H&R Block can help you understand the tax implications of your withdrawals, which is super important.
Oh, absolutely. Taxes can sneak up on you if you're not careful. Are there any books or podcasts you'd suggest for further learning?
For sure. I always recommend The Bogleheads Guide to Retirement Planning. It's straightforward and covers the basics really well. And if people enjoy podcasts, The Retirement Answer Man is fantastic for practical advice. They tackle a variety of topics that can help listeners stay informed.
Those sound great. It's so important to keep learning. Are there any small habits you think people could start right now?
Yeah, I think reviewing your portfolio quarterly is a great habit. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it keeps you engaged with your investments. Also, consider setting up automatic contributions to your retirement accounts if you haven't already. It's a great way to build your savings without even thinking about it.
That's a smart strategy. Making it automatic takes some of the pressure off. What about lifestyle habits? Anything there?
Sure. Start by setting aside a little time each week to read or listen to retirement planning content. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment, but just a little bit regularly can help you stay on top of your game. And if you're not already, consider joining a local retirement planning group or online community. Engaging with others can provide motivation and new insights.
That makes a lot of sense. You know, it sounds like there's no wrong time to start improving your retirement plan.
Exactly. It's never too late to take stock and make adjustments. Even if you feel behind, small steps can lead to significant changes over time.
And it can be really empowering to take those steps, can't it?
Absolutely. Once you start making informed decisions, you'll feel more in control of your financial future. So those are some practical first steps. Now let's bring this all together. Well, Emily, it's been a really insightful discussion today about delaying Social Security benefits.
Absolutely, David. I think one of the biggest takeaways is that delaying those benefits can really lead to a significant increase in your monthly payments.
Right. And it's not just about the amount. It's also about the longevity of your benefits. If you can hold off, you're setting yourself up for more stability later on.
Exactly. And then there's the consideration of how that delay can impact your overall retirement income. It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yes, definitely. And we can't forget the potential benefits for surviving spouses. A higher benefit for one can really make a difference for the other down the line.
That's such a crucial point, David. It's like we're setting up a legacy for our loved ones.
For sure. And it's empowering to realize that by making informed choices now, we can really enhance our financial future.
Well said. And speaking of empowerment, we encourage everyone listening to take these insights to heart. Building and protecting your retirement wealth is a journey, not a race.
That's right. It's about making thoughtful decisions that align with your goals and lifestyle.
And remember, if you found today's episode helpful, please like and subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. So drop a comment sharing your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have.
And don't forget to share this episode with someone who's planning for or already in retirement. The more we share, the more we learn from each other.
Next time, we'll dive into how to create a simple FIRE plan.
It's going to be a great topic, so stay tuned for that.
Thanks for joining us today, and we hope you're feeling inspired to take control of your retirement journey.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Until next time.